There's a quiet fear that creeps in for a lot of people as retirement gets closer. It doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it shows up as a simple question. Did I do enough? And if you're starting late, that question can feel heavier than it should. But here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. Starting late doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean the door is closed. It means you need different numbers than the ones everyone else is talking about. Most retirement advice was written for people who started saving in their 20s, people who had 40 years of compound growth working in their favor. And if that's not your story, those numbers don't apply to you the same way. So today we're going to talk about 5 specific numbers, not the ones you see in glossy magazine articles, the real ones, the ones that actually matter when time isn't on your side, and you need clarity more than you need pressure. Because the real question isn't, how much should I have saved by now? It's, what numbers do I need to understand right now to build the next chapter of my life? Those are 2 very different conversations. Before we continue, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this would be a really good time to do it. I make videos for people who want honest answers, not recycled advice that makes them feel worse. Let me tell you about 2 people I want you to keep in mind throughout this video. Their names are Carol and Nancy. They're both 63 years old. They both worked their whole lives. And on paper, one of them looks far more successful than the other. Carol spent 30 years as a school nurse. She makes about $52,000 a year. Her house is paid off. She has $110,000 in her retirement account. By most standards, that sounds scary. Most articles would tell her she's nowhere near ready. Nancy worked as a marketing manager. She earned much more over her career. She has $480,000 saved. She still has a mortgage. She lives in a nicer neighborhood. On paper, Nancy looks like the winner of this story. But here's something that might surprise you. Carol sleeps just fine at night. Nancy doesn't. Carol knows her numbers. Nancy avoids hers. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that is. Now let's get into the first number you need to know. And this is the one almost nobody talks about, even though it changes everything. It's not your savings total. It's your monthly income gap. Think of it this way. Your income floor is like the foundation of your house. Strong, underground, invisible, but holding everything up. Your savings? That's more like the furniture. Nice to have, important even, but it doesn't keep the roof from falling. The monthly income gap is simple. Take what your monthly expenses will be in retirement. Subtract what your guaranteed income will be. Whatever is left over, that's your gap. That's the number your savings actually need to cover. For Carol, her expenses are about $3,200 a month. Her Social Security at full retirement age will be about $2,200. Her gap is $1,000 a month. That's it. That's the real number she needs to solve for. For Nancy, her expenses are closer to $5,800 a month. Her Social Security will be about $2,600. Her gap is $3,200 a month. 3 times bigger than Carol's, even though she has more saved. You see, the moment you calculate your gap, everything shifts. The pressure stops being about hitting some magical savings target. The pressure becomes about understanding the actual hole you need to fill each month. And that hole might be a lot smaller than you think. So before you panic about your total savings, sit down and figure out your monthly gap. Write down your real expenses. Subtract your guaranteed income. That's the first number that actually matters in your retirement. The second number you need to know is your Social Security claiming age value. And this is where so many people leave money on the table without ever realizing it. Think of your benefit like a faucet. Behind that faucet is a pipe, one you've been filling your entire working life. Every paycheck, every tax contribution, it all builds pressure in that pipe. And when you finally turn the faucet on, that pressure determines how much flows out. If you turn it on at 62, the water comes out at a slow trickle, permanently, every month for the rest of your life. If you wait until your full retirement age, the flow is much stronger. And if you wait until 70, it becomes the maximum your pipe can deliver. Here's the math nobody explains clearly. Claiming at 62 reduces your benefit by about 30% for life. Waiting until 70 increases it by about 24% above your full retirement age amount. That's a difference of nearly 77% between the earliest and latest options. If your full retirement age benefit is $2,000 a month, claiming at 62 gives you about $1,400. Waiting until 70 gives you about $2,480. Over a 20-year retirement, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference. Now, I'm not telling you when to claim. That depends on your health, your job, your savings, and your spouse. But I am telling you this, you should know exactly what each option pays you before you make that decision. Most people guess. Don't guess. Go to the Social Security website, pull your statement, look at all 3 numbers, 62, full retirement age, and 70. Write them down. Multiply by 12 to see the annual amount. That's the second number you need to know cold. Quick question. Do you know your full retirement age for Social Security? Most people don't. And if you don't know it, you can't possibly know what your benefit is actually worth. Now let's talk about the third number, and this one is where so many late starters get tripped up. It's your real expense number, not your imagined one. Most people dramatically underestimate what they'll spend in retirement. They think their expenses will drop. They picture a simpler, cheaper life. And while some costs do go down, others quietly creep up in ways nobody warns you about. Healthcare is the big one. Even with Medicare, the average couple will spend over $300,000 on medical costs throughout retirement. Premiums, deductibles, prescriptions, dental work, hearing aids, eyeglasses. It adds up faster than people expect. Then there's the cost of free time. When you're working 40 hours a week, you don't have time to spend money. In retirement, you do. Hobbies, travel, eating out, helping the grandkids. The hours you used to spend earning, you now spend living. And living costs money. Here's what I want you to do. Track your actual expenses for the next 3 months. Not what you think you spend, what you actually spend. Pull your bank statements. Pull your credit card statements. Add it all up honestly. Then ask yourself this: what will go away in retirement? Maybe the commute, maybe the work clothes. And what will increase? Probably healthcare, possibly travel, possibly home maintenance as you spend more time there. The real expense number is rarely what people guess. It's almost always higher than the optimistic version and lower than the panicked version. Find the truth in the middle, because you can't plan for a number you've never actually calculated. If this is the first video of mine you've seen, subscribe. If it's the 10th, you already know what to do. Now, the fourth number is one of the most overlooked, and it might be the most important if you're starting late. It's your inflation-adjusted income need 10 years from now. Inflation is like an ice cube in the sun. It doesn't melt all at once. It creeps, it nudges, it slowly raises the cost of everything around you. Your groceries, your insurance, your health care, your utilities. Nothing stays the same price forever. Here's something most people don't think about. If your expenses are $4,000 a month today, at 3% inflation, they'll be over $5,300 in 10 years. In 20 years, they'll be over $7,200. Same lifestyle, much bigger number. This is why some retirees who felt fine in their 60s feel squeezed in their 70s. Their income didn't keep up. Their expenses kept climbing quietly in the background. And one day, they looked up and realized the math no longer worked. This is also why Social Security matters so much. It has a cost of living adjustment built in. Every year, it goes up to match inflation. That's a feature most pensions don't have. That's a feature your savings account definitely doesn't have on its own. If you have a pension without a cost of living adjustment, you need to understand that, because the dollar amount stays the same, but its buying power shrinks every single year. What looks like a strong income today might feel thin in 15 years. So calculate what your monthly expenses will look like 10 and 20 years from retirement. Use a simple inflation calculator. Don't let this scare you. Let it inform you, because knowing the number means you can plan for it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever calculated what your pension is actually worth in real dollars? Most people never do. And if you have one, that pension might be worth far more than you realize. That brings us to the fifth and final number. And this is the one that ties everything together. It's your income coverage ratio. Your income coverage ratio is the percentage of your retirement expenses that's covered by guaranteed income alone. Social Security, pensions, annuities, anything that shows up every month, no matter what the stock market does. Let me show you how this works. Carol's expenses are $3,200 a month. Her Social Security covers $2,200. Her coverage ratio is 68%. That means more than 2/3 of her life is paid for by guaranteed income. Nancy's expenses are $5,800 a month. Her Social Security covers $2,600. Her coverage ratio is 45%. Less than half of her lifestyle is guaranteed. The rest depends on her savings holding up through whatever the market does. Now think about that for a second. Carol has less saved, but more of her life is protected. Nancy has more saved, but more of her life is exposed to risk. Which person actually has more security? Which person actually sleeps better? It's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. And certainty comes from coverage, not from totals. That's a shift in thinking most people never make. But once you make it, everything else becomes clearer. Aim for an income coverage ratio of at least 70% if you can. 80% is even better. The higher that number, the less you depend on the markets to live your life. The less you depend on the markets, the more peaceful retirement actually feels. So those are your 5 numbers. Your monthly income gap, your Social Security claiming age value, your real expense number, your inflation-adjusted future need, and your income coverage ratio. Memorize them. They matter more than your savings total ever will. But here's the part most videos won't tell you. If you're starting late, you have more options than you think. and I want to walk you through them because too many people give up before they explore what's actually possible. Option 1 is working 2 or 3 years longer than you planned. I know that's not what anyone wants to hear. But the math of working even 2 extra years is staggering. You add more contributions, you delay drawing down your savings, you increase your Social Security, and you shorten the number of years your money needs to last. 2 extra years of work can be worth more than a decade of catch-up saving in your 40s. That's not an exaggeration. Run the numbers, and you'll see it. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't financial, it's simply time. Option 2 is downsizing strategically, not because you have to, but because you choose to. A smaller home means lower property taxes, lower utilities, lower maintenance. The money you free up doesn't just sit there, it funds your retirement directly. A lot of late starters are sitting on more home than they need. If you can move from a $400,000 home to a $250,000 home, that $150,000 could quietly become 20 or 30 years of monthly income support. Option 3 is maximizing your catch-up contributions. The IRS lets you put more into your retirement accounts once you turn 50. For 401k plans, that's an extra $7,500 a year above the regular limit. For IRAs, it's an extra $1,000. If you can hit those numbers, even for 5 or 6 years, the impact is real. Option 4 is being thoughtful about Social Security timing. If your health is good and your family has longevity, waiting can be one of the most valuable moves you make. Every year you delay between 62 and 70 increases your benefit. And that increase is guaranteed, inflation-adjusted, and paid for life. Option 5 is rethinking what retirement actually looks like. Maybe it isn't fully stopping at 65. Maybe it's shifting to part-time work you enjoy at 63. Maybe it's a slower transition. The all-or-nothing version of retirement isn't the only version available. Here's a question for you. If you could go back 10 years, what would you do differently with your retirement planning? Hold that thought, because here's what I want to remind you. You can't go back 10 years. But you can move forward starting today. And moving forward starts with understanding the difference between 2 types of people: the ones who avoid their numbers and the ones who face them. The avoiders feel stress every single day, even when their situation is okay. The facers feel peace, even when their situation is tight. That's the difference between Carol and Nancy. Carol opened her statements. Nancy didn't. Carol talked to a planner. Nancy kept saying she would next month. Carol knew her income coverage ratio. Nancy never calculated hers. The difference wasn't money, it was awareness. You may already have what people with millions are searching for: clarity, honesty, the willingness to look. Because in retirement, the people who feel most secure aren't the ones with the biggest accounts. They're the ones who know exactly where they stand. Now let me talk to you specifically if you're behind, because I don't want this video to feel preachy. I want it to feel practical. So here's what I want you to do this week. Not next month, not after the new year, this week. First, write down every guaranteed income source you'll have in retirement: Social Security, any pension, any annuity. Add them up. That's the first half of your gap equation. You can't move forward without knowing this number cold. Second, track your actual spending for the next 30 days, not your budget, your real spending. Pull every statement. Categorize honestly. Most people are surprised by what they find. Some find good news, some find leaks. Either way, you need the truth. Third, log into the Social Security website. If you don't have an account, create one. Look at your benefit estimates at 62, full retirement age, and 70. Write down all 3. This is non-negotiable information that millions of people never even check. Fourth, talk to your spouse or partner if you have one, out loud, about real numbers, not just hopes, about what happens if one of you is gone, about what your survivor benefits actually look like. Silence on this topic costs families more than almost anything else. Fifth, consider sitting down with a fee-only fiduciary planner, not a salesperson, a fiduciary, someone who is legally required to act in your best interest. Even 1 hour of their time can change the trajectory of your retirement. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? How would it change the way you sleep tonight? That's what understanding your numbers can give you. Maybe not certainty, but clarity. And clarity is its own kind of peace. There's something else I want to say to anyone watching who's starting late and feels embarrassed about it. Please hear this. Most people are starting late. The official numbers tell the story. The majority of Americans nearing retirement do not have anywhere near the savings the experts say they should have. You are not unusual. You are not behind in some shameful way. You are part of an enormous group of regular people who built lives, raised kids, paid bills, weathered job losses, and did the best they could with what they had. There is no shame in that. None. The shame would be giving up. The shame would be avoiding the numbers because it feels too hard to look. The shame would be letting fear quietly run your life when clarity is available. Don't let that be your story. Look at the numbers. Build a plan. Move forward. Retirement isn't about how much you've accumulated, it's about whether your income can support your life. And for many late starters, the income side of the equation is far stronger than they realize. Social Security alone, claimed at the right time, can replace a remarkable percentage of their working income. Add even a modest pension. Add the value of a paid-off home. Add part-time work or a small business in the early years. Suddenly, the picture isn't grim. The picture is workable, and workable is all you need. You don't need perfect, you just need enough. Let me leave you with something I want you to carry with you. There are people with millions of dollars who don't feel secure, and there are people with modest savings who sleep soundly every night. The difference isn't the number. The difference is understanding. Understanding your income, understanding your expenses, understanding what actually matters. That's the difference between stress and peace. If you're starting late, you can still build that peace. Not by pretending, not by chasing, by facing your real numbers, by making real plans, by taking real steps. The 5 numbers we talked about today aren't just math. They're the foundation of a retirement you can actually feel good about. Your monthly income gap tells you what you really need. Your Social Security claiming age value tells you what's possible. Your real expense number tells you the truth. Your inflation-adjusted future need tells you how to protect yourself. And your income coverage ratio tells you how secure you actually are. Know those 5 numbers, update them every year, adjust your plan as life changes, and stop comparing yourself to articles written for people in completely different situations. Your retirement is your retirement. Your numbers are your numbers. Own them. And remember, Carol and Nancy, remember that the person who looks more successful on paper isn't always the person living more peacefully. Remember that clarity beats accumulation when it comes to how retirement actually feels. Remember that you can be one of the calm ones, no matter where you're starting from. If this video made you think differently about your retirement, subscribe. The next one goes even deeper. I'll see you there.